Yes, I am.
It's a sunny Friday in central Uganda, off the north shores of Lake Victoria. Reggae music moves the ears as locals drag our boat into swampy waters. We're in Zeba, a couple of hours west of Kampala, and on a tour in Mabamba Swamp. This wetland is home to hundreds of birds, but we're seeking an especially peculiar creature. The shoebill stork is gray with beaming round eyes and with a football-sized beak. It towers 5 feet and clocks 12 kilograms. They live for 30 years and survive on catfish, snakes, frogs, and lungfish. And they wait hours for a catch.
The name Mabamba came from our local fish called mamba. So because we had very many fish here, lungfish, mamba, that is lungfish.
With mischievous expressions, these strange birds are modern-day dinosaurs. At only 4 months old, their chicks fight to the death to eliminate competition for food.
Shoebill, those 2 eggs, it will incubate them and get 2 babies. But those babies, one will be weak, another one strong. Then like 4 months, they will start fighting each other, those 2 babies, because of food. Then at the end, the strong one kills the weak one. So within 5 years, we have only 1 baby. The reason has why the strong...
With no natural enemies, shoebills are solitary creatures. Finding 2 in the same spot is extremely difficult. This afternoon, we're hopeful we'll see just one.
It sounds it's like that of a donkey.
Welcome to Nature Answers, rural stories from a changing planet. Together, we explore stories of how communities in rural sub-Saharan Africa are working with nature to adapt to climate change. I'm your host, Ivy Prosper, joining you from Accra, Ghana. This is our first episode of the season, and we can't wait to take you through stories from Ghana, Uganda, Zambia, and Côte d'Ivoire. These are the people who are facing climate change head on, and they're making a difference. I invite you to join me for today's episode as we visit the people of Zeba. This community in central Uganda struggled for years as its wetland degraded due to pollution, hunting, and deforestation. But listen to how the people of Zeba use trees, education, and a love for birds to save Mabamba Swamp. When we arrive in Zeba, the tree canopies sing with birds. Tour guides and fishermen bustle between boats on the waterline. This town, owned by the Catholic Church, has become a bird-watching hotspot.
This Mabamba wetland is on the banks or shores of Lake Victoria, but it has a marsh which stretches from this side going to the open side of the lake, so it makes it more suitable for those birds.
Joseph Kimbagaya is a Secretary General for the Mabamba Bird Guides. It's part of the umbrella Mabamba Wetland Ecotourism Association. Mweta, as it's called, formed in 1999 to support wetland and commercial birdwatching. It also includes Zeba Wetland Management and Mabamba Wetland Environment Conservation Association.
Because this wetland is big, actually it's 2,420 hectares, and whenever we get there, we reach less than a quarter of the place because it's full of vegetations. Some areas difficult to access.
Joseph arrived in 2012, visiting from eastern Uganda to see his sister. Fresh from high school, he brought a fascination for birds. He used his evenings to explore the wetland, learning about local biodiversity. This interest led him to being selected as a focal guide for Nature Uganda. The environmental conservation NGO brought him on to educate others about shoebills and blue swallows. He saw huge potential for tourism in Mabamba.
Nature Uganda started to use me as a freelancer to do water body counting in 2 different parts of Uganda. Then I get more interest. At first it was my hobby. From there, it turned into an economic activity. That's when I had to train to become a serious bird guide.
But before he could start bringing in tourists, Joseph had to win over his community. Some locals would stone the shoebills and other birds as nuisances, and the visitors Mabamba had would damage the land and water while hunting. Mayombwe Godfrey is a community elder in Zeba. He served as local council chairman and parish chief. His people used to survive on fish from the wetland.
It is very paramount to protect wetlands because in Uganda we have a proverb that water is life. If you destroy all the wetlands, water will disappear.
Godfrey remembers the environment flourishing decades before tourism exploded in Zeba.
And we used to go into these wetlands to get papayas, to make beds, and even mats. And there are some fruits which you used to get from these wetlands. When we are growing up, we used to see very good and big trees in these forests. And you were not supposed to cut any tree apart from getting permission from the authorities.
As lumber machines arrived and logging became profitable, the forest disappeared rapidly.
The forest, which was big, was cut down until you cannot even see any tree around this place where the forest was.
The trees once spanned as far as 12 square kilometers. Due to population and agriculture, 2/3 of the forest disappeared. Before the tour of the swamp, we are welcomed to Zeba by Kasasa Hanington, chair of Mweta. He's 49 and has worked in Zeba since 1983. All this time, he's dedicated himself to conserving nature.
We have African jacanas, long-toed lapwing plovers, malachite kingfishers, pied kingfishers, bee-eaters, the blue-breasted, pelicans, open-bill storks, the shoebill. We have lesser jacanas, we have yellow-billed ducks, we have whistling ducks, many and many others.
In 1999, Kasasa founded Mweta after completing a tourism certificate in Nairobi. He recalls pollution of the swamp straining the community and environment.
The challenges we have been seeing that we have been fighting a lot with other people to make them aware what is good in wetland through sensitization and through mobilization. That wetlands will be good if we look to them well. Because you see some of the people here, they have been doing agriculture at the edges, and some of them pollution was so much some time back, poisoning, because they saw that if they poison, they will get a lot of fish. So those are the fishermen. So we have been fighting with these hunters. There are a lot here, killing the animals around, like statungas, this part of antelopes.
Some people even used fire to hunt animals in the wetland.
There's one time we fought with somebody who was a hunter. He tried to burn all the place. We tried to put off a fire. Then we tried to connect to the fire brigade in Entebbe. It helped us to seize the fire.
Countless birds were forced to migrate elsewhere to survive. Mabamba was losing its ecological charm, and even the church wouldn't stop cutting trees. To recover the land, residents took things into their own hands. Kasasa began bringing people like Joseph and Katande Aida onto his team. She's now chairwoman with Mweta. Katende says this wasn't easy. First, they pushed for autonomy from the church so they could restore the land.
We first planted trees thinking it's the best conservation we want, but the land is not ours. The government says that every place with open water belongs to them, but this particular place belongs to the Catholic Church. That is the challenge. We even have people that want to donate and add something here and there, but the Catholic Church will say they don't want it there.
As a youth, Joseph struggled with the church elders disagreeing with his ideas.
Well, what if we do this, or we to propose to this style, they could find us with us, or they can guide us, or like first training. But they'll keep like, you're young, or whatever you're suggesting, you should listen, or should go with what we're suggesting, or we're telling you to do. But if they could listen, and they took our proposal as important thing, it would be really good. Actually, I would prefer that. Yeah, like sit on the same table, we share ideas, everything equally.
So one day, Joseph and other eco-tour guides walked over to the parish headquarters. They asked permission to plant trees where the church was chopping them down, and the church said yes. Using different species like mango and eucalyptus, they could save the bird habitat. Godfrey and the elders also came together to address biodiversity loss at Mabamba. They pledged to teach the community not to pollute the water with plastic.
In last days, water was flooded here around because people were used to throw plastics and other bottles into this wetland. But because of engaging in removing them, you see water going back into its normal level.
Aida says women played an important role as educators. They spread awareness about protecting the wetland and changing people's behavior.
We go to the communities and teach our friends why we preserve this wetland, and we show them the benefits we get. Because when these people come, they give us money and we form groups and give them livestock. Now they have hens and goats. I am most proud of our voice. Even today, you would have found part of this place burnt. But even the students, we talk to them. The NGOs helped us to fund them and make them believe not to touch this place. Mabamba cannot be burnt because the birds lay eggs in there, especially the shoebill. From 2002 to date, it's a long time and the association is still strong and going.
Meanwhile, Kasasa engaged Uganda's National Forestry Authority to bring trees to Zeba.
Nature Uganda led us with environmental art. Then we have another plantation. We tried to replace, and after replacement, they told us to make new beds of the trees. They told us that please, if we finish all the trees, the wind would be blowing us away. No firewood, all things would be away if we don't fight for this.
The community was able to start regulating charcoal burning.
We made the bylaws that through those trees which are planted, there must be laws, because now we found even the government, sometimes you see the trees, but the government, people go through the government behind, then destroy it. But for us as an association, if you see you coming to destroy those trees planted, we cannot allow you.
For Joseph, picking the right trees wasn't easy, but he's inspired other people in the community since.
I tried indigenous trees. Unfortunately, most of them they dried. But I had some fruit trees like oranges, avocados, 1 meter, 2 meter. But the chance I had, since my neighbors, they saw me planting those trees, they also get more interested. So they're also doing the same, planting more trees around.
The church wasn't the only barrier to finding suitable trees. Floods hindered the planting, wiping out some reforested areas. But Joseph has now identified other suitable sites for trees. And the community has all the resources needed for ecotourism.
But right now, it has completely changed and it has really improved. And even there were few boats here, like for doing like motorboats, but now you could see everywhere we're using those motorboats.
What's also changed is Zeba is now accessible from Kampala by public transport. People from the city quickly learned that Mabamba is a haven for more than 300 bird species.
This place, Mabamba Wetland itself, is a stopover for migratory species. Actually, they're still coming even up to now. Like blue swallow, as I told you, is a migratory species from South Africa. They always come here in early April and they go back in September. We have gulls that also migratory from Europe to here. But when it comes to savanna birds out of the lake, we had a lot of species around.
Joseph hopes to preserve this environment for his grandkids to enjoy. This restoration work brought income and opportunity. Tourism revenue is divided by the local council between Mweta and the rest of the community. It funds boat owners, tour guides, the council office, and other local projects. Kasasa says people are sticking around Mabamba as a result to protect the shoebill stork.
Yeah, the wetland is very important because now shoebill, without wetland, it cannot be alive. If you compare what is used to eat, maybe to feed on, they have to feed on lungfish, they have to feed on mudfish, with other frogs and whatever. They all need wetlands. So without wetlands, the shoebill cannot manage to be alive.
Joseph is convincing more friends to take up ecotourism work.
I always keep advising my friends also to join the work I'm doing, because when you do this tourism stuff, it doesn't need a lot of papers to go in school. Provided you could learn, you identify different bird species, you'll be able to do the work. That's how at least we're fighting to make sure we keep the environment.
He says these opportunities are positive and productive for young people. 80% of the tour guides Joseph works with are youth.
They might be in good schools, but at least they knew, even from school. Other than getting into bird groups, I keep them busy. They have to learn, because if there is no work, I always walk with them around. I teach them about birds, about nature. So even after their school, they already have a job to start from.
Ida is happy with this ecosystem, and the residents of Zeba are thriving again. It's boosted opportunities for people of different ages and genders.
This place has a lot of benefits. When our friends, the tourists, come, they give us money and we work in our groups. We make soap, plant mushrooms, and weave mats from our swamp. The swamp is also a source of medicine. We no longer cut down, but we just harvest from the swamp.
Many visitors around the world are coming to enjoy Mabamba and support Zeba's economy. They're being taught to respect the environment, as are Zeba's youth.
That's why some of them became boat captains like him. Some of them became...
So we advise them when they reach here that after drinking water, just leave that bottle into the boat. We shall collect it in order to protect the environment. And sometimes we teach them and train them the goodness of protecting the environment, that it is not good to just throw everything everywhere.
Mweta's work also restored good water quality, yielding more crops and rehydrating the forest. Joseph notes the cleaner water is fundamental for birds and the vegetation that they rely on.
They were doing some research on water sample. The water is clean, actually. It's good. That's why you could find we're surviving, we're alive. So you can even, people they're using for drinking, we're using this water for watering our plants. A lot of activities.
For Joseph, this work funded his kids' schooling and supported other children in the community. But he still thinks about the future of his home. He invites others to love nature with a passion.
Well, what I could do, keep advising or tell people to become nature love. because whenever you love nature, it will be preserved and conserved. Though we conserve it without that nature love, that passion, it will be good for nothing.
For Mabamba, this love is already making a difference. More birds are returning from as far as Europe to enjoy the wetland. The community is even seeing more shoebills now. In 2008, they counted 6 shoebills. In 2012, they found 10.
And even by the time I came here, nobody has ever seen a younger shoebill or even a single egg. But right now, we're lucky. Of recently, we've seen 3 pairs with the chicks. So they're multiplying because this area is well protected and people are no longer stoning it.
Back in the swamp, our eyes are peeled for a living dinosaur. "20 minutes in, our boat suddenly falls silent. We emerge from behind the tall grass and lock eyes with a shoebill. It stands as still as stone, dwarfing other birds around. Just 30 or 40 meters away, its gaze is piercing and uncanny. Its feather coat looks impenetrable. Its closed beak seems to smirk at us. And besides camera clicks, we remain silent in awe. Minutes pass before it dives for a fish, misses its meal, then lunges into the sky like a phoenix. Soaring just meters over our heads, it disappears back into the swamp.
All I can say, then you have been somehow lucky to see one like this, because sometimes this is nature. But come today, you see 2, the other day you see
This is Nature Answers, a podcast produced by Farm Radio International. You can learn more about nature-based solutions and the people implementing them by subscribing to Nature Answers wherever you get your podcast. You can also follow us on social media at Farm Radio or visit us at farmradio.org/Nature Answers. We'll be back next week with another exciting story about a rural community, a nature-based solution to adapt to climate change in sub-Saharan Africa. Stay tuned for now, and until next time, I'm your host, Ivy Prosper, coming to you right from Accra, Ghana.
This episode was written and produced in Uganda by me, Everett Lindquist, with support from staff from Farm Radio International's office in Uganda, including Ichat Stephen Justin, Pascal Moiruka, and Jimmy Odiek. A week of driving around Uganda for our reporting was perfectly topped off with this wetland tour. Seeing Mabamba's rich bird life up close brought me back to the biodiversity I treasure in my Canadian home of Victoria, and reminded me why we should work tirelessly to protect it. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Everett_Lindquist. Additional thanks to fellow volunteers Emma Stewart Kiss and Olivia Rumbell for taking photos and gathering sound on site. We joined as part of an internship program with Carleton University's School of Journalism. This visit to Mabamba wouldn't be possible without Radio Zeba, one of Uganda's leading Uganda language stations. Broadcaster Amaiko Martin provided translations on site, and re-recorded the interview with my own way Godfrey in Kampala. Doreen Anambabazi further translated and voiced my interview with Katendi Aida. It was edited by Tara Sprickerhoff. Farm Radio compensated community members who participated in interviews. It is common practice to compensate a person in this region for the time they spend being interviewed. Our podcast would exclude many important perspectives if we only interviewed those who could afford to step away from their economic activities without compensation. Nature Answers was produced by Farm Radio International, thanks to funding from the Government of Canada. As they say in Luganda, Mbera Bulungi.